Before this episode starts, just want to give a quick shout out to Real Image. These guys are based inside the Castle Court Mall in Belfast, just outside Poundland, and these guys specialise in everything to do with making canvases. Even if you don't know what you want on a canvas, they can literally make you a design there and then. I didn't know what I wanted, and they actually redesigned the whole Nice to Meet You podcast logo and gave it to me all on the same day. So it was absolutely amazing service, an amazing canvas. It's going to look really well on the podcast set. So I want to give them guys a shout out. You can check them out. It's www.realimage.co.uk. Welcome to episode 18 of Nice to Meet You podcast. And today we are joined by podcast royalty. Ross, Shea and Thomas from Here's the Craic. And these guys have been pretty much veterans in the podcast space, in my opinion anyway. Like, as I said to you before, I was on your podcast, was out there during the week, and I said to you boys, like, I seen you guys way back, like way before I started doing anything, and you've been absolutely killing the game, like 125 episodes deep, going strong.
Thanks.
Yep. So I am joined by Roy. I'm here to learn from these guys. So that's going to be a valuable one, because I'm going to learn a lot, and hopefully it's very valuable to the listeners and watchers, because I think you guys have a lot to say, and I believe you haven't been interviewed before. Am I right in saying that?
No, this is the
not
first
yet.
one.
The first one. Yeah. So it's the flip now. You're getting interviewed.
It's weird, like. It's weird.
It is weird.
Very weird.
Whenever I get interviewed with you, it's just like, fuck. And even at the end, towards the end, I was asking you questions like, hold on a minute, let me fucking interview you boys.
Yeah. Oh, you weren't there for that, really?
Yeah, so I haven't met Shea, so today was the first day I met Shea as well.
For that, man, it was an existential crisis moment. He started asking us questions, and I was looking at Thomas being like, this ain't in the Google Doc.
This isn't what we do right now.
Yeah.
But so first interview, which is good for me actually, because I pride myself in interviewing people for the first time. We've had it a good couple of times now on this podcast, so I'm excited. And for everyone watching and listening, we'll talk a lot about that journey, because as I said, you just have a valuable story to tell. That you guys, you've been open and said that you've worked normal jobs, 9 to 5s as individuals. You started this podcast about 2.5 years, 3 years ago now, and creating content, built an incredible platform. You've had many ups and many downs, so it's sort of time you maybe share what's been going on with Here's the Craic. So you just have a lot to say, so I'm really excited to have you on, so pleasure. Thank you so much. No problem, thank you. So we'll start from the start. It's probably a good place. So you guys are all working a job, and everything begins with a thought. That's something I've actually been thinking about this week. Like, everything you do in life actually begins with a thought, which is mad. And then you act on it, and then you do it, and then you become it, and then you create this life that you want it like. So take me right back to just why start a podcast in the first place.
You want to do this or what?
I don't know. I think there was no real big reason behind starting, and I think it was me and Ross. We went to uni together, so me and him got real close through uni, and then me and Shea went to high school together. We're just, I don't know, I was always into listening to podcasts. I'd listen to a lot of football podcasts, and then I'd listen to the likes of the ICO and stuff, and it's just the conversations we would have in the car, at uni and stuff, and we sort of were like, if we put a microphone down, this would be interesting enough stuff, and then there's no one really our age. I think you have the whole NA comedy scene, obviously Shea Todd and all are killing it, but I think from our point of view, there was no one just regular sort of guys just doing a podcast in Northern Ireland. It was just, there wasn't really anything else out there. And then we just got chatting, and we're like, fuck it, just let's do it, and got Shea on board. He's always been interested in content and stuff, so and we just done it. It wasn't
I think you realised it merged very well. I feel really bad you holding this.
I feel really romantic.
Feel free to take turns. You can just swap in and out. We're not sophisticated here. We don't have a mic each.
I think
you guys have got a good setup.
It was a weird one, because me and you got friendly in uni, and it was definitely one of them things that it's probably one of them ones that kind of then sort of surprise friendships, if you know what I mean. Me and it was really weird, because I remember that the first time Tommy, we were sitting, we went to Belfast Met, and Thomas was like, we go to the pub, and I went, who? And he was like, me and you, and I'd be wild awkward, cause he'd be a wee bit more forward than me, and he's like, we'll go to the pub, and I was like, right, okay. And I think from there it's just conversations along the lines of oh, I do this, I do a bit of that. Like at the time I done photography, and I know there was things that you were doing which you were like, I was interested in, and I think I both kind of like twigged very like quickly that we wanted to do something outside like a normal 9 to 5 or outside uni and whatever. And then I think like we were talking about it we talked about this for ages, and we didn't really do much about it. And then it took us to go to Costa. Yeah, we're in Costa on Boucher Road, and that was like the first time really I'd met you. I maybe met you twice. I met Shea like twice, and then we just chatting, and then it was like, right, this will work. It has to work, like, because the three of us had our
there's like a synergy there that's good.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then we just bought the mics, and bought the mics, and then had more trouble with USB. Don't buy USB mics. If you're starting a podcast, do not buy USB mics. We were like, let's buy these 3 USB mics and plug them into the laptop. And then like sat around like the first Sunday we ever recorded. Took us like 3 hours to figure out, and then
I don't even think we recorded. Or
No,
put
So
that
that's
first
what
thing out.
that's what puts people off straight away, because that's the issue I had whenever I started. I remember I had seen an Impulsive episode where Logan Paul was using his phone and had like a wee mic stuck in the lightning bit, and it was like a wee dead cat thing sitting here, and like just speaking into the phone like that, and all of them were doing it. And I was like, how does that work? And I was like, this would be so much handier than just buying a full mic setup, because I think a lot of people do look at wanting to start a podcast and like they see the production, they see the camera, they see the sound, and they're like, fuck, this is a mountain to climb, like.
Yeah.
And then it puts people off.
I think we were in such a good position though, because like Ross was all into his photography and had like a really good camera, and like he was getting me into photography and stuff. So we had like, in terms of like the visual side of things, like I think we had a good idea if we could do a good job and put it out, like it would be good quality. But like once we got the sound sussed out, like that was
the biggest hurdle
and then,
to
like,
get over.
Shea's architecture and stuff, and he'd be real creative, and like the branding. I think the branding was a big thing as well.
Yeah.
I think that's something we just got right from the start, and like even like messaging people and stuff. I feel like they respected it, like because we'd put that effort in. It didn't just look like sort of a
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, because you've done well. I remember seeing it, and it was here's a Craic with like the yellow look on it, and you had the Giants Causeway thing on it, and you had a wee song at one point. You still have the song.
We had the 3 pints on it, and then
Oh, it was 3 pints first.
It was. I remember because we bought the USB mics, started crowding around, realised that didn't work. There's 2 episodes, and this might be like a wee like exclusive. There's 2 episodes of Here's a Craic which no one's ever listened to before that we recorded. We
Damn.
never put them out because it was like, these are trash, and it was basically like the 3 of us crowding around a wee sofa, chatting about like what's going on.
Like we are right now.
And it was just like we were like, we can't put that out, like, and then we sort of jigged it, and the mic you ordered wasn't a podcast mic, so me and Shea ordered like a podcast USB mic, but Tommy ordered an AX
like
one,
a gaming mic or something.
Oh,
so like it ended up that we were like, let's just put Tommy's mic in the middle of the table and crack on. I think that was your like sort of determination to be like, let's stop making excuses and just do it. And that's
Gary V, you were listening to Gary V that day.
That was it. I know you mentioned it in our podcast, but like it was literally just like, I think you just need to do it. Like I think you can sit and like fuck about really and just make excuses, or you can just do it and like learn along the way. Like.
I think that's a lot of what we have learned along the way, especially with like the sound and stuff. Like, I think if we hadn't have started it, just went and done it, like we'd be sitting going around in circles for all day. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't have like the amount of stuff we've learned from like the sound, like upgrading the mics and stuff, and then like the different soundboards. Like I don't think we used a soundboard or anything at the start as well. So it was like recording on the different files, but like any like a bit of advice you give to someone who wanted to start it is just start it, like. And you probably feel the same way. Like.
Yeah, no, I do. Like I sort of similar. I think I said on yours maybe as well. Like, it took me 2 months to post my first one because I thought it was trash. Nothing to do with the guest or how it was done, but I had the idea of doing it like an overlap sort of style, like out and about video it with like a gimbal, and like you're doing an activity, and it sort of looked cool and different to everybody else, because everybody's podcast is sort of similar, that they're all sitting around a table talking to a mic. So I liked the overlap because I thought it was so different and like really watchable. I wanted something that was watchable and enjoyable, and then it just didn't work, and I was like, well, this is fucked now, I'm not going to do it now. And then thankfully got the haircut in here with the boys, and they were pushing me like, when's it out, like when you dropping it? I was like, never, mate, it's fucking brutal, like, do you know what I mean? And then they're like, no, well, what's wrong with it? And I was like, well, I need a location, I can't do this going forward, and plus I didn't really think about it. Northern Ireland's kind of got shit weather. how on earth are you meant to do a podcast outside
Yeah.
and like plan and schedule it? Imagine you planned it and the guests had came and then it was pissing down all day. What are you gonna do? Like,
nightmare.
so I was like, I need to get an actual location, which was big for me. And like whenever these guys blessed me with this place, like I was like so thankful. Like just to roll in, roll out when I need to do the pod, like was amazing.
Yeah.
And I know your location have changed a few times now. Because I was in the studio there with you a couple of weeks ago doing the one for me and you. And as you said, you started in just the apartment.
Yeah, we just started in my flat, just in the kitchen, like, and just kept going from there, and got a couple of guests on there, but then, like, I think we were speaking about it before, it's a bit weird, like, asking people to come to your house to record a podcast.
Yeah.
I think when we started getting female guests on as well, we're a bit, like, it could be a bit uncomfortable for them, like, coming into the house with three lads, like, and you're like, yeah, come on into the flat here, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was just, like, yeah.
That was a tight cramping space.
It was, it was a tight space. It was literally like a glass table, like fucking.
And any time you moved anything, you just hear the slap
like
off
set,
the table.
Yeah, you set a glass down. I remember we did a podcast and we were all drinking whiskey glass on, and throughout 30 minutes in we had like 3 glasses, and then just heard the smack of the glass go down top of the glass table.
I'd be stoked just at this point, mate. 3 glasses of whiskey, holy fuck.
I think it was, we had to go, like, pretty much up to Jawbox Jerry was, I think, the last guest we had on in your flat until it was like, right, but then you also have to think that stage lockdown hit was a mad, like, sort of, that really pulled the rug from underneath her feet. And then I think, like, the last guest we had on properly was 2 Degrees.
Did we started the podcast before lockdown, did we?
Yeah, we started the podcast before lockdown, and then we went through a period. That's whenever I think we like proper started networking, was because we were like, right, let's do podcasts over Zoom and let's get people on. Yeah. And like we had access to people because people had nothing else to do. We were like, you have no excuse.
That's true.
Reply to us, like, and we were spamming everybody like, let's record an episode. And like, to be fair, they were a blessing, but they were also a curse because we enjoy like meeting people. Yeah. And like I feel like that's where we kind of thrive, is like once you meet us, it's like we're 3 just regular dead on people, like I'd like to hope anyway, whereas over Zoom it was a bit like, well, what's the crack? And then like some guests like just bounce straight after, like as soon as we stopped recording, like
leave room.
We had like 2 or 3 guests and we were like, alright, and thanks very much everybody for watching, thanks such and such for coming on, and until next time, the next episode. And as soon as I was like going up to like stop recording, I just looked up and the guests disappeared. And I was like, that's where they go. And they were like, they just bounced. Then you always got messages afterwards like, oh
thanks so much and all.
I was like, I probably should have made that clear.
Before you record, you can hang about. You've got nothing to do, by the way, so we can sit and drink if you want. But it's good that you never made an excuse that you didn't have that location at the time. And like that obviously helps. Another interesting, this is a very good question, which I think will help people as well, is what's a not obvious skill to have that's good that will help people start a podcast? For example, people think that I need to go to uni to start a podcast, or to make content online. I need to go to uni. I need to study media. I need to study business. But I found in my life, I worked in Starbucks for about 3 or 4 years. And I believe Starbucks have given me an outside skill that helps me now be a presenter, content creator, and podcaster than any course in uni would ever do. Because in Starbucks, I learned how to manage a queue. I knew if there was barely anybody in the queue, I knew to spend time with that person. I knew how to manage individual people at different times and read them. I also learned that no matter how good or bad the coffee was at the end of the bar, as long as the relationship was good at the till, they'll come back every time. Yeah. So that was a skill that was really important, because I know that most of the time whenever I bring people onto this podcast, if I built a relationship with them guys before and actually made a friendship, the podcast can go as well or as bad as it can, and they'll still love it and they'll still have enjoyed their time, and it's the same way they're presenting as well. So it's an outside skill. I think it's, a lot of people always think things like that don't help you in life, but it does. So have you just found something that you do in your own day-to-day life or job that you think that was a really useful skill that I've took into doing what I do now, making this podcast, and it's helped?
It's not something that I do every day, but one thing we found over the years is we used to get people on, guests on, and they come on and they'd be great, like they talk and talk and talk. But then like you thought, oh, this is brilliant, like we don't have to do much here. But then whenever you're going back and looking at it, you were like, we're not actually having a conversation with them. We sort of find that you have to be able to like control the conversation and like bring people around and get them to talk about what you want to talk about. So I think that's a very difficult thing that people don't like realize that you have to do whenever you are podcasting.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes people can blabber on like, and just go off track, and you need to be able to bring them around and get them onto what you want to talk about.
Yeah, and interrogate the answers as well. It's something I've found, like, don't just get the answer that you think you want, like interrogate that answer further.
Yeah.
So like it's valuable to the listeners and watchers, and because it's easy just to give an answer, but like what's the answer behind the answer that they actually want to say, but they don't know how to say it. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's as well as that, just like figuring out like I suppose figuring out what you're good at, if that makes sense. So like I would be a big sort of believer in like uni doesn't, you know, it's a piece of paper at the end of the day. And like I've worked in a couple of businesses and had people in with the most like stunning degrees and like academic sort of track record, and I'll be honest, like they haven't really been as good as someone with a less, you know what I mean? Like it's you get your foot in through the door and you prove your worth, is what I believe anyway.
Yeah.
But like I think the thing is as well, it's like whenever we start it, it's like you could go to, and it's definitely something we've had to learn over the past while, is that you get very swayed by numbers and things that like you need to keep a clear head and keep a clear goal as to why you're doing what you're doing. And like we've definitely went off track sometimes and like been really hammering to get people on with like say big followers and stuff. And like I think it's took us to realize that like it's not about that. It's about like the reason why we started it was because we wanted to have the crack. We wanted to like share what's happening in Northern Ireland or wherever and sort of give our opinion on it. But then as well as that, there's obviously the side to it where the people who we have on need to be interesting. And sometimes followers doesn't exactly make you the most interesting person in my opinion. So it's like it's one of them things where you have to realise it's like, what are you actually here for? And I think like we've definitely had that conversation a good few times. It's like, why are we doing this? And then we've caught ourselves on. We caught ourselves like before we kind of start. It's like I remember the first clip we got, and it was actually we were interviewing someone, and you posted a clip, and I can remember distinctly in the flat Thomas going, "This isn't going anywhere," and we were like, and it was like, yeah, and I think we were kind of like in our own heads, and we started recording, and by the end, like it was mad. Like by the end of the recording session, we had a guest on. We had Johnny Bergen. Johnny Bergen, like if you go way back to like one of the very like first podcasts for Here's the Crack, we were interviewing a PT, Johnny Bergen, and that was the episode that I would say like clicked, because we were like, this is not doing well. We're posting TikToks. You see everybody else doing it. It's doing well. Kind of getting deflated in your own head. And the next minute, like as soon as we stopped recording with him, like Tommy just looked across the table at us and was like, lads, that clip's like been up 40 minutes on 15k. And we were like, oh.
It's even them, like to think now, like even them numbers, like back then it was such a big thing. Like it was like, like I don't know how to say it without sounding like a cock, like like now we get like 100k on a TikTok and it's sort of just the norm, like. Whereas back then it was like, I remember those times, like we're like, it was like the whole IV thing. I was proper like, if we keep posting on TikTok, it's gonna work, like. And I just got to that stage where it was a bit like, fuck, we've been doing this for a while now, like it's not really going anywhere, like. And then that clip bang, but like it's just like back to what you're asking, like I think it's just consistency, like. And I think it is just like, why are you doing this? Like I think there's so many conversations now about like younger people wanting to be influencers and content creators, and it's like, but why? Like why do you want to do it? Like have you actually got an interest in like fashion? Like do you have an interest in stuff? Like why, or do you just want to be famous? Like? Do you know what I mean?
It's authenticity, like people see that. Like do you know what I mean? Like a lot of our clips that have banged have been ones that are like so you would not have expected them. Like there's a
thing too. Like we thought that the recipe to success was like get famous people on. They bring you views. That video that we're talking about was us talking about Stephen Nolan. Yeah. And it banged, like, and we were like sort of moment of realization where it's like, you don't need to get famous people on to get views. You can do it yourself, like.
Yeah. You know? Our best clips are just stories, like. Yeah. Like people's stories. Even like the juice jar one we done at the time, like your girl Amy was just talking about a rude customer. and it's got like 1 million views or something.
It's got 3.
3
Yeah,
million
it's like 3
views.
million,
Jeez.
yeah.
That's mad.
Just a random video, and it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's like, you don't have to get like, maybe people starting their podcast looking at people thinking, oh, like, look who he's on, look at the guests he's getting, but like, it's about the content and the conversations you're having. Like there's 3 of us, nobody knew who we were, and we've just grew a podcast, just 3 of us, like.
Yeah.
So like, you don't have to have like big names, and don't focus on followers and stuff. But yeah,
That's
Yeah.
a good point. What are some of the high moments you guys have? I've seen a few things that you've been doing. Seen you work with Dale Farm, and what would you consider like, oh, that was success? Like, I call that success.
don't even know. No, I think it's
I always go back to the time I went to Derry.
yeah.
What was that?
That was mad. Like,
It was like, what was that for?
We were just there for the crack.
We
like.
just went there with the girls for a
Yeah.
weekend.
We need to
wasn't
keep this TransLink NI, Derry, London, Derry. Like. But yeah, went to Derry, and we were with the women, and like the women, and like we were with them, and we were staying in a hotel in Derry, and we went out for the night, and like I don't even think, like, we walked across the road, and people were like, "You do that podcast?" And we were like, "Yeah."
That's
and then
cool.
like another we like jumped up the road, and someone else was like, "Lads, love the podcast." And we were like, "Cheers!" And then in the pub, like this fella came over and was like, can I get a photo with you and all? And we were like, "Yep, dead on." And like I love the
That's
fact
cool.
that people are like
It's a good indicator of
Yeah.
you're doing something well.
like it's a strange as well. Like I was playing tennis in the Eco Centre one day, and this wee fellow walked over to me and was like, "You do that podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "My mate loves it, but he doesn't want to come over and talk to you." And I was like, "Lad, this is just like, it's weird. Like, thanks,
over.
but yeah." And then my mate was with me, and he was like, "That's weird." Like, and I was like, "Yeah, it's strange." Like, but it's nice. Like that's been the like. See, whenever people come up to you and say, "I listen and I love it," it's like, wow, like that means more to us than people know, because like, the amount of work you put into something. And even like whenever we did take the break, a couple of people messaged and was like, "What's happening with the podcast here? What's the crack? Why haven't you posted?" But we were kind of like, right, people are noticing. You know what I mean?
These aren't posting and
Yeah.
I think
aren't
you can
present.
get caught up on the numbers, and like, you don't actually think of them as people, if that makes sense. Like, you're just looking at the numbers and you're like, whatever, and then you go out and you realise, no, there's actually people listening to this, like people have an interest in this, and I think that was it. Like, going to Derry was probably one of the big times where we were like, holy fuck. Like we went out the first night, and like Ross was saying, like people were coming up getting photos with us. And then it was the next day walking through Derry, and we were getting stopped in the street, and we were like, this is insane. Like
Yeah.
what is going on? Like,
We were also very hungover as well. People were like, yeah. But like it's like wee things like
That's
we
encouraging,
like, like going to Ed Sheeran and all. Like we were stopped by a couple of people. It's like we didn't start it for that. Do you know what I mean? So like whenever we see it, it's like something that we like always like talk about, because to us it's like so. It's very
Alien.
strange.
Aye.
Like
Yeah.
it's but. At the same time, it's also cool because like people go, "I listened to that," and it's, "Oh, like see whenever such and such did that, I loved that," and you're like, "Wow, people actually watch for more than 5 minutes."
whenever they mention something specific,
Yeah.
like it's halfway through the video, it was
Yeah.
never clipped.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, whoa.
Like we met someone at like that. I think it was that Ed Sheeran concert, and one of them turns around and goes, "What about your boy with the jewel deck?" That's you, because we were talking about like favorite Christmas presents, and like Shea was like, "I had what was it you had?" Like,
The Yu-Gi-Oh! Jewel deck.
Yeah.
Watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Whenever you're younger.
Yes!
You know the
The
actual
thing that come
cards,
out.
like-
My brother had one, I didn't have one.
flicked out and all, like, but
Yeah.
we were taking the absolute piss. It was one of those episodes where you're just in a real giddy form and you're just
Aye.
spouting shit, like, and we were all like taking the piss about me going like around fucking challenging people in school and stuff. But, no,
I
it was just-
summon Dark Magician.
But they were taking the piss that was me. That's what I used to do whenever I was a kid. But it's mad, like the people tuned in on that specific bit, because there's never really a clip or anything made of it, was there?
I think there was, yeah, because we were all pissing
It
ourselves.
was
like.
so funny, but yeah, I think the guests as well. Like, we've met so many cool people. Now.
Yeah, that's the benefit of doing a podcast, and I think I touched on it on yours, is when you do it just to make friends, like, or business, like it's a good business is just good relationships.
Yeah.
It's just being good friends. What an excuse to do it. Let's get you on to chat about you.
We've met people and
Really?
we've interviewed people and talked to people who I would say on a personal level, and I know like the three of us probably, you know, we we would all say the same thing. They haven't just like made an impact on the podcast, but they've also made an impact on us too.
Yep.
Where like they've kind of give us that spur to go, do you know, I am gonna do this outside of the podcast. I'm gonna reach out, like you obviously, like Tommy and stuff, like he's really interested in like running business and all that there, and like there's been people on who I think has like really inspired you to be like, yeah, let's just do it.
I think it's like the motivation you get sometimes, like when you have guests on, like, and some of the people who've had on, like the likes of Nico and like even like your buddy Joe Box Jerry, and like there's so many people, and like you just come back like after it, you sort of have this buzz of like holy shit. Because like there's so many people in Northern Ireland doing so well, like I feel like
there is,
and like we've got so many people on here, like leaders in their industry or whatever you want to call it, like, and you're like to tell you their story and what they've achieved, and like after it you're sitting there and you're like, fuck, like there's that sort of buzz you get after, it's class.
The mindsets of some of the people you meet as well, like, are amazing. Like you mentioned their Job Box Jerry, like I think his whole thing was that. I think, what did he start at, like 60 or something?
It's like 50 or 60.
Where he was like, everyone else, like once you get to your 60s, you know, you're starting thinking about retiring and stuff, and he was like, no, I'm going to start a gin company.
Wow.
And he is where he is now, like, it's amazing, like, the people you meet, like.
Wow, that's crazy. And you were saying about people recognising you and seeing you and like confirming that you're doing well, basically. I think that highlights the importance of when you do start a podcast, or anyone that thinks about starting one, about doing it as a video and audio.
Yeah.
Because I think, and you were talking briefly about audio issues at the start, which is normal, especially when you're getting used to it and you don't have that skill of, I know how audio connects to a camera and then how it exports to it. Like, it's so, see when you start, it's like a mountain, like, honest to God, like I remember being there and it's honestly like Mount Everest, because you're thinking of everything. I don't have a laptop. I don't know how to export the video. I don't even know how to clip it. I don't even know how audio gets from this mic to that camera to my, like, oh my God, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
But you're saying about the success that you have had, it's probably because of the video format mostly.
Yeah.
And you would encourage people, if you are going to do a podcast, and I believe everyone should, because everybody's got a story and everybody has life experience that is valuable to people. But doing it as a video format for YouTube and the short form TikTok as well is important.
I think if you don't do that, you're mental. Like I think if you're not going to do it as video as well, like the way TikTok is, YouTube, Instagram, like I don't know how you promote it with just audio. Like
I think it would be tough.
I don't see how you grow up. Like.
Everything's short form now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go on YouTube and the first thing you see now is YouTube Shorts on your phone.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
massive
you're
at the minute.
literally getting a passport to be in front of anybody you want, and like it just takes like. And the thing is, when you merge video with an engaging story, people will comment, and when people comment, then it puts out to more people, and then people start, like, half the clips that have done well for us has been ones where been quite open-ended, where we've kind of left it where people give their opinions and stuff, and then you just sit back and that's it. So yeah.
Is there a strategy you guys have whenever you have a guest on, or even just a lads episode? Because I always sort of think to myself, whenever I'm sitting, I can envision while sitting here what clip I want, and I'll ask a question to get an answer to clip it. Yeah. Sometimes, do you guys have a strategy where you know what you want from that episode, or like even a strategy of how you distribute the content afterwards, i.e. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, whatever?
Posted on everything. I think it's the first 3 sides. Well, like in terms of like getting the clips, like I don't think we would ever sit down and be like this is how we want to get this clip, or we want someone to say this thing. It's more like you get guests on because they're interesting and you think the topic they want to talk about is interesting and it's a good story, and then you clip up the stories. Like when I don't know about you, but like when we're on a podcast and we're interviewing someone, if this, like, you'll know when it's a clip. Like they'll say something, and you're like, that's a clip.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's in your head, but like I don't think we've ever went into a podcast thinking we need to clip this. It's more just the topics.
I think the thing to think about is sometimes you are not your audience. If that makes sense. It's the same thing, like you probably know this from Starbucks and stuff, but like I had a manager, like whenever I worked in Carphone Warehouse, basically he was like, you're not the customer, so who are you to say what they should want?
True.
I'm like, oh yeah, fair. It's up for them to sort of tell you. So like when you put a clip out, you're kind of leaving it up to people to
tell you if it's good or not,
and tell you if it's good or not. Like we put
Very
some
true.
clips out that have done like trash, man, and then like people are like, why did you put this out as a clip? But then other people are like, I agree, You're like, right, okay.
It's the clips you don't think will do well as well. To me, if
Yeah.
like in terms of like clips that do well, it's the first 3 seconds. Like I'm sure you know that. Like it's
Yeah.
like the first 3 seconds you need the hook. Well, I think even from working on marketing and stuff, you know how important that is in terms of ad creative and all as well. It's like you like you look at TikTok, like how easy it is to scroll through a video. Like if that first 3 seconds doesn't catch your attention, like it's just no good. Like so I think
I don't think
it's a good answer to the
we don't.
question.
I
was a
don't
good
think
answer.
in response, like we don't ever plan a podcast around clips.
No.
We plan and like the
Maybe
one
we
thing.
should.
Yeah, maybe we should. But I think the one thing I will say is whenever you're planning something, we did go down a route where we were like putting a lot of effort into like the structure, and like half the gold comes from just sitting back and
Then
the
it
reason why we said let's start a podcast is because we sat around a table at a pub and chatted crap, sat in the car and chatted crap,
Yeah.
and we were like, God, I like it was the natural conversations that we were like, God, I wish someone was recording this. But then when you go in and you start trying to structure everything, and like we always found like personally for us that never really worked, because like again, like going back to like the clips that have done well, and like not saying that it's like clips are like the definition of us, but like the clips that done well are the clips that we were like, I didn't expect that, because it came from like a random conference. Like no one ever told you to talk about a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel deck, but you just went and did it, and then bosh.
Yeah. No, that's the way it works. I agree completely.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the way to go. Have you guys learned? You sort of touched on it briefly earlier when you were talking about Thomas wanting to maybe do business at some point. Are you guys? Do you feel like you have changed over the past couple of years doing this podcast? As individual men, like, do you feel like I'm a completely different person now because of this, in a good way?
I would say so.
I don't know how to answer.
I would say
Yeah, we have, but we're just not realising it yet.
I think you're definitely different. Like
Oh, here we go.
I don't know.
Well, also,
What
Let's
I-
go.
I don't know.
Here's how we're
I
getting
don't know
deep.
if you think the same about me, but like I'd say you've changed a lot. Like
In a good way.
yeah, but like
You've turned into
just
a
the
little
way you
diva.
were. Not even like it's not. I don't think it's anything to do with podcast. I think it's just in terms of like what you used to be like when we started hanging around together compared to what you were now. Like.
Yeah, I think I would. My answer to that question would be 100%. Like I think whenever we started the podcast off, and not just starting the podcast, like the podcast that delves outside the podcast, but like very like timorous, very like. I don't want to say that. I don't want to upset people's feelings. I don't want to like looking into everything to like the nth, like the so far in advance, and like almost trying to like create things before they even happen. Whereas I think now, I wouldn't say I'm chill, but I'm a lot less like uptight is probably what I used to be, because like I think I've got to the stage now where like I don't really like, I think you just get to the stage where you're like I can't let people affect me anymore. Like I would have been big into like reading comments and taking it to heart, like whenever people, because you pour a lot of passion and drive into something, and then for someone to comment something that does get under your skin, whereas now I rarely look at comments, and if I do and I see something, I laugh, and I'm like, that's hilarious. I'll actually take the piss out of it, which I don't think 3 years ago I would have done that. I think I'd have been like, no, we're stopping this, because user 1587 or 452 said you're trash, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Your podcast is shit. You're like, oh, fuck. It must be shit.
Would you say you've grown?
I don't think I've changed that much, but it's hard. Like
It's hard not to
yourself,
change as
like-
well, but if
Yeah.
you're doing something consistently for free, if you've done the gym consistently for 3 years the same way you're doing pod, you're going to change, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably hard not to.
I think you've changed from a point of view, like from obviously me and Shea weren't very friendly at the start of the podcast, but I think you've changed from a point of view, like when we had guests on, like I always thought whenever they walked in, like Shea was the first to greet them, the first to say hello, like out of the three of us would probably be like the friendliest, if that makes sense. But then when the camera rolled, I don't really think that's shown, whereas now it's like completely different, man. Like like you're proper, like you've kind of brought that on the camera.
A lot very standoffish at the start. I found it difficult talking to people. I'll be grand in like a situation where you're like meeting someone, greeting them and stuff like that there. But I found like through the podcast you can actually like have long form conversation. Obviously you're kind of forced to but I think it's helped me with that there. I think I've come around, and I think I'm actually a bit more confident in myself too, like, because it was quite shy as well. Like, but I suppose in terms of that I have changed a bit, but it's hard looking from the inside and out.
It's hard to look at yourself and go, flip,
Yeah.
I've done well, or I've grown. It's hard to nearly encourage yourself, pat yourself in the back, go, flip, I've done well.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's why people sometimes don't start, because they feel like, oh, if I can always start, but then you don't always get the chance to start it, and the guest you want to speak to or what you have in your head might not be there in a year's time. The desire will change, or that guest will move on, and do you know what I mean? So I think it's
your turn now.
I think he's just the same from day one.
Probably. I don't really know.
Would you not say though, like you're a very ideas person, and I would say like from knowing you for like quite a while, I think it took the podcast to be an idea that you kind of came up with that is actually done well, which is like kind of like then translate it onto other ideas that you've had where you're like, let's just do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's give you the confidence.
I think I would always have been the one just do it, like, in terms of just getting it done, and yous would be more like, the quality of it, like, but I'm just more like, just do it, like fucking shell it out, but like,
just do it.
I think
shout out tonight.
networking's probably a big thing we've learned. Like, I don't think that's necessarily how we've like sort of changed in us, but like I think it's realising what you can achieve through like just messaging someone on Instagram, like and meeting new people, and how easy it is. Like, I think people look and see followers and think, oh, like they're never going to reply to me, but it's like we've got all our guests on through DMs on Instagram. So I think like just reaching out to people. In terms of, I don't know how to answer that question.
That's a good answer.
I think I've changed.
Same, Tommy.
We've all sort of rubbed off on each other a bit. I think Ross's organisation skills, I'm not saying me and Tommy are very organised, but I think we're a wee bit more organised than we were when we started.
Definitely are.
And then I suppose our laid backness is sort of rubbed off on Ross, like, so we're just sort of merging into one person now, so yeah.
Married into
we're
one.
one entity. We are one entity. We definitely after these years we've definitely figured out strengths and weaknesses and just played into them.
Yeah.
Like we would know, like if you said to us, I want to do this idea, like the three of us would be like, that's a Shea thing, that's a Ross thing, that's a Tommy thing, or here's how we could do it all together.
Yeah.
So I would say like we've grown probably as individuals, but I would say like as a mates group, like I'd say this podcast has kept us well and truly together. Like I think if we didn't have the podcast, I don't think we'd be as
apart.
Close.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to ask you the dynamic of the friendship that you all have. Has it changed or been different since starting? And you're sort of already touched on it there. Like that's maybe the one thing that kept you.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you went like this. I thought you were going to speak.
Hey, what's your answer?
I don't. But like these two obviously weren't mates. Like,
yeah, I suppose it started a friendship for me and Ross more or less. Like, but I think the good thing about it too, we're all at that age now where we're like moving on, you know, in life, and like getting houses and getting married and stuff like that there. Whereas like a lot of people would like grow apart from their friends and stuff. I think this is such a good thing that's sort of kept us together. Yeah. Whereas like it's nearly like an excuse for us to get together. Whereas like if we didn't do it, it'd be like, oh, you're going out, like you need a reason nearly, you know. Yeah. Especially since we're so far apart as well, like because I'm in Armagh, Tommy's Belfast, and he's Ballymena, so it has kept us all together. Like. What about the dynamic of friendships outside of this friend group? So has your friends in your life that don't do anything outside of their job or 9 to 5, has any of them relationship changed with them in such that they've maybe been encouraged by it or maybe more distant because of it?
I just think you have different friends. I think we're all very like-minded in terms of like we want to grow something, want to achieve stuff. Like I'd say we're all quite driven, and there's just people that aren't. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but I just think like there's different relationships. Like you have different friends. You have friends you might go out for a drink with. You're maybe not close to, like your friends.
Play
Friends who maybe go out and watch football with, but like you wouldn't really chat about much more than football. If that makes sense.
I get you.
I think the three of us are like we could talk to each other about anything, like, you know. Yeah. And I think we're very like-minded in terms of like what we want to achieve.
I think that's it. Like doing the podcast, like Tommy hit the nail on the head recently. Like he's like it's kind of like a business, and like you have to be with each other through like whatever you're going through, if that makes sense. And like there's been like a couple of things in the past couple of years that have cropped up where like I know 100% like we've all had each other's backs, if that makes sense. And like I would say the closeness compared to like how I look at even people that I've grown up with in school who I'd still be friendly with, like I wouldn't be as close to them as what I would like used to. Like Tommy's my best man at my wedding, and Shea's on the wedding party as well. Like it's like, you know what I mean, like it was a no-brainer thinking of that. Like it's like who else could it be? And I suppose that's it. Like, not to get corny, but it's like when you look at it, when you get older, your circle shrinks, but your circle also gets a hell of a lot more tighter.
Quality of it's better nearly
Like,
as well.
even planning my stag, like we're doing like a home stag for me, and it's like all like mates, but then we're doing an away stag, and like I remember saying to you, like, I couldn't imagine going away with anyone else bar you, like the pair of them, because I was like it's just not that type of, like, you don't have to like be, not that you're being someone else with your other mates, but like you don't have to like try, if that makes sense. Like, it just is what it is. Like, the friendship's just there. So yeah.
Sometimes other people view you differently when you start something like that, though, and especially when it's successful. Like, I've even seen just glimpses of it in my own life where you are viewed different from the same people, you know, before you start it and after you start it. And you do catch on to it, and it's not that you're like better, or it's not that you're like, maybe they just, I don't know, they just see you as like, oh, you're doing something now. Maybe you don't have time for me, or maybe you don't have, you're not the same person or something.
Yeah. Like, whenever you started doing what you were doing, like, do you find that like you had friends that you almost felt like they were a wee bit like, not like, they were a wee bit sort of like, oh, I don't know about, like, it's a bit embarrassing or whatever, like,
Aye, and I guess that's what I was trying to get at with yous. It's like, no, I don't really think they thought it was embarrassing, but I know, like, I knew, but not like, it's unspoken sort of thing mostly. This is why it's a hard question to answer, because I think it is unspoken. It's like, oh well, I don't know about that, but it's unspoken. Do you know? It's like, you can tell they don't know about it.
It's just that sort of silence.
Aye,
yeah.
And it's not like no one's buzzing about it. Like, the only person that's going to be buzzing about your idea is you. Like,
yeah.
And that's one thing I learned, and it's one thing, if anyone's listening that wants to do something like this, is like literally the only person that will be happy for you is you. When you first start, especially when you get the success and the platform and whatever else comes with it, then they'll be onto you for free shit and all. But
there's something, yeah. There's
Who are you talking about? Here, lad, what about that free Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I think there's an essence of like, there's something really nice about being in a comfort zone, but then there's also when you get out of your comfort zone and reap rewards from it and actually see it working, there's the payback is mad. Like, I know, like, and over here I think we do have this mentality whenever people try to push the boundaries of what they think they should do. There's almost like, you get the eye rolls, you get the people being like, what are you doing that there for? And like, I think with us, like, what was brilliant about us starting out was we got the mics, and like, I have a few mates who were like, yes, crack on. And we got the mics, and then as soon as the numbers started growing, the eye rolls started, and you're like, right, okay. They're like, right, well, more people are seeing you do that, and I'm like, and that's the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
eyeballs.
People get it or they don't get it, and that's fine. And you just need to be comfortable with that. Like, and to be honest with you, like, is a mate rolling their eyes or telling you that it's not something they would do? Is that really, you know, are you going to look back in 60 or 70 years time and go, oh, I'm glad I didn't do that because someone else disapproved? No,
Such a good point,
yeah. You'll
like,
never
at the
regret
same
it.
time, like, if they're not supportive of they're your friends, like that's the way I would look at it. Like, even any friends I have outside of the two of them, like, they're the support me, like, and they'd always big up the podcast and like think they cheer you on for achieving something. Like.
That's good.
And from my point of view, if they don't support you, they're not your mates. Like.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit harsh.
No, like, I can
No, it's direct. I'd say it's direct.
Yeah.
Just
like, I can even remember we went to a pub one time with your dad, and like, I can remember Tommy's dad, like, we were all sitting around and he was like, what do you want from this and all, and we were like sort of chatting, and then your dad just turned around and looked at us and was like, I just think keep going, it'll take one thing that you do and it'll just all fall into place and you'll all go in the right direction. And I was just like, don't get me wrong, like, my dad's supportive of the whole thing. Like, he finds it hilarious. Like, he loves watching the clips. Like, absolutely pisses himself. Like, he gets on TikTok and just starts like scrolling through or like watching YouTube videos. Like, and it's funny. Like, but like, I remember your dad saying that, and I was like that's like. But then you also have to remember there's also friends that you'd have whose parents might not be like that, which is what rubs off on them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
No. Yeah. Great answer. And what are like some of the low moments that you have had doing this? That's a deep question.
Oh no!
But I noticed.
Where do we begin?
We did talk briefly off camera whenever I was at your studio about the break you guys had recently, just over Christmas, 2 months or so I think it was, and we touched on briefly, you know, burnout, the effort, like we've talked on it here today, the time it takes, the money, the investment, everything. What are some of the low moments that people could expect starting a podcast, and what does it really take? What's the sacrifice that's
I
involved?
think that was probably the lowest moment, like we were telling you about. Like I think we just were like so fucking driven to like push it further, and then we were like, we're gonna start doing 2 episodes a week.
But it wasn't as if we were doing bad. It was just everything just sort of was the same.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like
numbers was the same. Everything just it didn't seem to be growing, but it didn't seem to be like getting worse at the same time. And it was just nearly like you were stuck in like a loop. I think it was all like frustrating all of us, and then it was like we need to do something. We need to do something, you know, to like boost things, like make it go, because like we've been blessed like that things have grown very quickly for us in the past, but I think we just got to the stage where like things have stopped, but we need to do something now. And then like we'd come up with the idea of like doing like 2 a week. We need to put out more content and stuff, and we did that for a couple of weeks. And I mean, it's just
we've done it for about a month. I'd say
was
it was like
terrible.
2 months,
Yeah, it
and
was
then
terrible.
we were trying to do like 2 podcasts in one night. And I was like, yeah, the first podcast will be grand, but then you're going into the second one, and you're just like, I can't be arsed.
You're fatigued, aren't you, from it?
Like you've put all your energy into the first one, and you're like, I don't want to sit here and do another one. Like I just want to sit here and have the crack, like relax, like. But I think we've just tried to do too much, like. But
I think the low moments for like, this is maybe more me than anybody else, but like I feel like the low moments for me was whenever I kind of was like, when like obviously as you get older, life just goes like starts ramping up, and like in the midst of all that chaos, when you kind of feel like you're in another chaotic situation and you don't actually feel like a connection with your mates, that was kind of like a low moment for me, was because like there's so much going on. Like we bought the house, and then we were trying to do up a house, and it was like all this thing, get married, it's like all this stuff getting thrown at you, and then you look at it and you're like, right, we're trying to do these 2 podcasts a week, you're coming up, like, and I honestly felt like whenever I was coming up, it was like, Shea, have you got them SD cards? And Shea was like, yes. I was like, right, Tommy, have you charged your camera? And Tom was like, no. And I was like, why have you not charged your camera? We've 2 episodes, and it just felt so like military.
Yeah.
And then eventually you just burn out, man. You just, and as well as that, it's one of them things like where you just keep going. Youth, I think if you're starting a podcast or if you're running the podcast, the big thing I would say is you never know the answer. You'll never know like the key to what makes something a success. You just have to keep doing it and love what you do. Yeah. And that's it. Like I fully believe in that, where it's like we were doing things because we thought they were the right thing to do and they were the key to success, but they weren't.
I think that we started out doing that. Like we did start out, and we were doing it for the crack, and then it became we need to do more content, and then just took away the joy. It nearly took the joy out of it, you know.
Yeah.
Where it was like we were going up maybe on a Saturday there, and we'd maybe go for a few drinks or something after it. Whereas it was like we were leaving work at like 5-6 o'clock. I was driving up the road, and we'd get there, and it was like get the 2 of them done, get them done, and then as soon as you were finished, you're out the door. Like you never really got to sit down and actually like talk to each other,
mates,
like
yeah.
off camera. Like.
I think that was like it just became too much, like, and they were trying to do too much, and then like I think that's the thing as well. Like people maybe don't realise, maybe they do, but it's like the work you have to put in. Like it's like I know it looks like, oh yeah, they just show up and put the mics on, and it's like that's it. But it's like people don't see like the Zoom calls maybe 2 nights before where we're like going through like the script and coming up with questions for guests and like what are we going to talk about, and like the stuff has to be edited as well. So like Shea edits the long form stuff, I do the TikTok clips, Ross does like all the outreach, messaging people and stuff, like organising everything.
Yeah.
So it's like it is like a job almost, if you know what I mean.
And
it's like I think it sort of got to that stage where we were just like fed up and burnt out, and like it was just like, what are we doing? And we didn't enjoy it anymore, like you said. Like it was just like, I think it was me and you got on the phone.
I just rung you one night and had
like,
a mental
we were
breakdown.
just like, I don't want to.
Fuck that shit.
Literally, it was that.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not enjoying this. Like, what are we doing? And then
Did you nearly quit? Did you nearly just go fuck this?
I don't think I ever would have quit. I wouldn't. Like me and you were talking about this the other day, and I was like I don't think you could just stop it. Like, I think it came too far now.
The issue with that time was that we were so blinded by doing. And not like, and don't get me wrong, there'd be people who'd be listening to this, like yourself, who, like I get that you've people like these guys who help you with stuff, but like you are like it's a one person thing, if that makes sense. Like you're the host, you're like all, whereas with us it's 3. So I think that kind of complicates it because you don't also have a podcast and a like a brand to build. You also have a relationship to maintain the thing that you're trying to build. It's a weird triangle, but like I think that time, like had no clue how any of them were feeling, and I knew that Thomas is very like, you're very driven to just do, and like that night I rung him. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go down, because this is how I feel, and I didn't know if he was going to feel the same way. So the minute I rung him and went, listen, this is way too much, I can't cope with this, and I like, if this is the way we want to go forward, I'm bowing out. And you were like, no, I agree, the way we have this is unsustainable. And that was just like this massive weight just lifted off our shoulders. And then we just thought, let's just like, I think we just knew we needed a break for a while and really sit back and reevaluate what we wanted to do, and how we were going to make this work for us and for giving people kind of what they were wanting. Because we had a lot of comments saying, I hate the guest podcasts. I don't like them. I'd rather it was just the three of you. It's like, I love the banter the three of you have. Like, I love to be involved in that. And that meant a lot to us. But also, like, we really like interviewing people. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Oh, that's a hard one.
So then that's why now when you go on, you'll see it's a solo and a guest. So like, we'll have two guest podcasts a month and 2 solo episodes a month.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was probably the lowest.
Though, like,
Long form answer.
I don't think we've been through that many downs. Like, I think that was probably the worst of it. Like, we've had like disagreements and stuff, but like, that's just common. Like I don't think there's been any points.
We disagree on something every week, but
yeah.
like, I think that's the good thing. That is character building. Like,
I think that's the only time I've sort of been thinking, like, fuck.
Yeah.
But you would never do like a boy band move and like one of you breaks off and it's just like 2 years running.
That's what I was saying, man. It's like, if you said you wanted to quit the podcast, like, me and Cher still doing it.
But like, here's the thing though. Like, I think
because unfortunately, all good things do come to an end, don't they? That's what they say.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll still be old and grey. You know what I mean?
You're already grey.
I'm already grey, like, so I'm halfway there. But like, no, I think if like, at the end of the day, it's a good thing about being also like outside of the podcast as close as we are, because I would, if I woke up in the morning and things, like, you know, it was too much and I thought, no, I don't want to do this anymore. If Tommy or Shea turned around and went, no, well, we're going to keep trying, I'd be like, 100%, why would you quit? Like, don't just quit, because like, I would be the person like being like, yeah, I'll come up and do the camera work for you, or, you know, something like that. Yeah. No,
great answer. You're saying there you wanted to grow it more, and you already had an incredible platform, like 90k on TikTok, 2,000 odd subscribers on YouTube, 2,000 or more on Instagram now as well. When do you, like, what is the right move to make to grow it? Like, when do you decide I need to have faith now to jump like that massive leap and go for it, or do I just sit and believe what I'm doing is good enough? Where do you know? Like, where do you know to go?
I think the decision we basically came to was like, we're not enjoying this anymore. We need to just get back.
So you feel like once you lose that, that's it?
Yeah, because like, it's like, that's how it started. It was all just good having the crack and like us doing it as mates and getting guests on, and like even on conversations about like when we used to get guests on, you used to be so excited. Like, you used to be like, I can't believe this. Like, we got like the likes of Ryan Cullen. He's from the area and he cuts like the likes of Jordan Henderson's hair and stuff. And he was one of the first guests we got on. I remember like me and Shea being from around the area, we were like, oh, that's sick, like, that's such a big guest. And it was like that excitement of like getting the people on, and you could even hear it in the podcast. It was like coming across, and then I just think we just started losing that and not enjoying it anymore, and it's like, what's the point in doing it then?
Yeah.
I think next steps for us is probably like, we've got into, it's very early doors to answer your question honestly, if I'm being straight. I think we've got into a position now where we're like, this works. It works for us personally, and it also seems to be what people like. Yeah. Because what we're doing is essentially we're giving value back to bringing people on like yourself and interviewing them. And then obviously people who are interested in you then come to our platform, and they're like, if they find value in what we do, then they'll stick around. Yeah. Like, we've had the most interesting guests on in the past couple of months. Like, but it's like proper, like, if you look at why we've had them on, like, if you take a look back at a year, we had someone on, it's like, because they had 50k on Instagram. Whereas now we're like, we have this girl on because we love like the idea of like the housing market, flipping houses, and this girl did it. How did she do it and why? The relationship coach one was like, I don't think we would have ever thought about getting someone on to talk about like sex and relationships like a year ago.
That was
but
incredible.
we got her on because we were like, let's get, because people,
it's real life.
you know what I mean? Yeah. And as well as that, like, I think the one thing that struck us was like her saying, you know, about the whole, I had a phone call with her beforehand and sort of talking to her about like coming on, and she was like, do you know, no one knows that like 9-year-olds now are getting exposed to like porn. And I was like, that's mad. But then as well as that, I was like, we have a platform here which we can use her to come on and actually talk about stuff that people are going to be like, value, like, do you know what I mean, as opposed to someone coming on and, you know, and don't get me wrong, we've never had any bad guests on, but like, you know, it's about what you're giving back to the people listening, and whether that be through a solo or through a guest episode, I think we're hitting the nail on the head at the minute, so we'll just see
Where it goes.
Yeah,
it takes time to grow it as well, like I think that's what people don't realise, is like Shane Todd and Colin Geddes have been around for like 10 years, like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? I think anyone starting a podcast, it's like, have that, like, you need to have that realisation of like it will take time to build it, and like I think that's something maybe we need to do more, is just like sort of chill a bit and like just be happy with what we're doing, you know.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, exactly. So 2.5 years, you need to do another 8 years. Keep patience, like, keep it up.
I don't.
It's true though. Like.
Yeah, I think we're planning things, like I think we definitely want to like work with more people. I feel like we've kind of shied away from that, whereas now we're like we've done like a pack up and stuff, and we actually realised, God, we could actually give, like, we've worked with a couple of brands, and like none of them have ever not said that we haven't provided them value.
Yeah.
Like we worked with Outside In, and that was like a whim, and we done like a discount code. Wow. And like on the podcast, and that was like a year ago. This was before we even like to sort of decided at that stage that things weren't. This was before we started doing the 2 a week. And like I remember the girl message. I think we had the discount code on for a week, and she was like, "Here's the seals," and I was like, "That's mad. Wow. That is mad." Like we were proper like. That's cool. By the end of it, we were like, we actually can use this platform for something here to get back to people. So yeah, it'd be cool to get into more of that.
Yeah.
So if you're a brand out there and you're looking to work with us,
hit them up.
Shoot me a DM. There we go.
Smell the desperation.
Boys, have to give you a Diary of a CEO conversation card here.
Oh dear.
These cards I absolutely love to bits. I've started using them pretty much in all my episodes now. We use it for like maybe one on the guests episodes, and we use it a good bit on the lads episodes. These are really good, and they're all about vulnerability is the door to connection, and you've already had loads of vulnerable questions, to be fair, so you're well prepped for this one, like. But it's great, like, it's you watch Diary of a CEO, and we all sort of do, and it's just all the questions that the guests sort of leave on. So we'll use this, and we'll finish with some quick fire questions, and then we'll hit the barn, the Galgorn barn. We were going to decide Galgorn barn or Smoke a Monkey. There's nowhere else to go out in Ballymena, so
it's better than Armagh.
That's right. No chance.
So we're going to go to the barn, but this question's actually left by Chris Voss, who's a FBI negotiator, actually, and he owns Black Swan. There's a company he owns as well that's basically teaches people how to negotiate in every area of your life. So that's what he does. The question he left is, what are you clear about now that 1 year ago you didn't know? It's a great question.
What are you clear about, did you say?
Yeah, what are you clear about right now that 1 year ago was a mystery to you? You're like, what? I know for me anyway, like 1 year ago I had just started the content. Yeah, and I just started a new job at the same time. And I knew this is what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how it was going to work. I was like, where does money come from? How do I even work with a brand? I had a couple thousand on TikTok, if even that at the time. And I'm like, what? Like, am I even supposed to do this? Has it been going well? And just throughout the 1 year that's just passed me, like, obviously, as you know, worked with Northern Ireland, worked with some really good brands in Northern Ireland now as well. And even just the wee thing, like, they're the big things, but see, just wee things. I remember a comment a girl left under one of my TikToks. It was just me in the port talking to people, and she was like, "You're so lovely with people, like, you should be doing this forever." And I was like, that is like the best comment I've ever received in my life. That's fucking class. So I think that's what I'm really clear about now. That I feel like I know what God's calling is in my life, and it is to speak to people, to present, to do this podcast. And it's something last year I wasn't sure about. Maybe I just was insecure. Had things in my life that I was like, because I know Stefan really well. Funny enough, like I know everything about me. good and bad. I know the wee secret things that no one knows, and the wee things I think about. And this time last year, they were probably like the things that were dominant, like up front here. But now it's like at the back there, and I'm like, I know I can do it. So that's what I would say.
I think one thing that has come to mind for me is whenever we were in like school and stuff, I think we've seen a lot of people like moving away and things like that. So I think that was like a big burden on like the likes of me. Like, am I going to like make anything of myself here in like Northern Ireland? And you always sort of had the thought in your head, like, will I move away? You know, where do I want to move to? Like, I always had like thought of like moving to like California or something. But
Yeah.
I think the longer I've been here, the more like I've grown to love this place. Like, so
Awesome.
like I think one thing that has become clear to me is that I do want to stay here and like make a career here rather than move away and something like that.
That's
there.
cool. Because I sort of feel that as well. It seems like you have to go to Australia to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
As you say, it's not the case.
And whenever you're growing up too, I think a lot of people like run it down, you know, to belittle Northern Ireland and say there's nothing there for people, but I think the likes of things that we're doing, you're doing, like, you can, if you really want to find something, like, you can go out and find it, like, it's there for you.
Yeah, man. It's a great answer. What we used to, guys?
No pressure.
It's a great answer.
Don't look at me.
I always look at you like I'm going to come out with something. Just waiting for you to come out with something that's going to blow everybody's mind.
Get me the.
I would say for me, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Whenever you asked like what some of the things that you've like grown on, and like I would say like the fact that Tommy and Shea are able to look at me and go, "You've changed a lot." Like I would say for me, things that are much clearer now that weren't a year ago was like I really love that like quote, like people always have a plan until they get punched in the face. I think it's like Mike Tyson or something.
That's right, yeah.
But like I think for me, like the clearest thing that I know now, like everything a year ago that I was stressed about and that I was proper like, oh, this is not going to work out, it's worked out. And if it hasn't worked out, something like that door shut but another door opened. Like I look at my life now and like while it's obviously like I don't think everybody's like perfect and they can't have like the best life ever, like you've your ups and your downs, but like I think for me clarity on just like I don't know, I think it's that type of thing where like you just know once you're like settled in yourself in your own head and like you're sort of confident that you know who it's what you were saying, like you know yourself better than anyone else. And I think I've just came to accept that where like clarity wise I would have tried to like plan a lot of stuff a year ago. They tried to like almost like a chessboard like of things that I wanted to do, and now I'm just like, you know what, no, I'm going to do this because I'm going to be happy if I do this, if that makes sense. So I think for me it's just like understanding that you're meant to kind of like live your own life and write your own book when it comes to this sort of stuff. Don't let anybody else like influence you, whether that be a friend, like a toxic relationship with a mate. I think like as like fellas as well, that's really hard to like talk about. You know what I mean? You kind of want to put up this like hard exterior and be like, I have it all sorted, but sometimes you don't, and that's fine. Yeah, everything will work out. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think for clarity wise, that would probably be my answer. Like I think just. It's fine, it's
great answer. Don't stress.
Don't stress.
It's not going to affect your life in 5 years. Don't spend more than 5 minutes.
Thomas always said to me a year ago, just chill. Always got like, I would have tried like really plan stuff, and you would have always sent me this GIF, which I actually sent you the other day, and you never twigged on, or you did, and you got really pissed off. You would have sent me that. Do you know that guy's like, Daddy chill?
Oh, yeah.
I would have been like in the group chat, like, lads, flip, I've done this and it's not gonna, and like I'm stressing out and I've been up to 2 a.m. biting my nails off, and Tommy would have just sent in the GIF like, Daddy chill. It's like, whereas now I see that GIF in my head, like when things are getting a wee bit skew with, you're like, Daddy chill.
It's prophetic.
Your turn.
It's my time. No, I was just sitting there trying to think of like where I was this time last year, and like I think this time last year I was working a job where I was working from home. And I was in a room in my flat all day, Monday to Friday, and I was fucking miserable. And I think it was just that realisation of like, if you're not happy, it's up to you to make the change. And you know, I realised why I wasn't happy. Like I was sitting in a room all day working, barely speaking to anyone. And then it was like, I need to get a different job. I need to change things. And I think it is that realisation of like, if you're unhappy and like you want something to change, it's like you have to do it yourself. Like, you know, it's like, what's that saying? Is like, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, it's like insanity. Like I think like that's probably one thing I've realised in the last year or so is like just coming out of uni, it's difficult. Like you don't like, no one really teaches you what you have to do. Like how trying to find a job, trying to find your way, like, and like trying to figure out what you want to do. And I think it's just like,
100%.
realizing like if you want something to change, you have to do it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Really good answer. We'll finish on some quick fire questions, boys, and then we'll wrap up. These are a bit lighthearted, a bit more lighthearted. Not all of them though. To be fair. There's only a few of them, so just take turns. Take turns answer when you want.
I want to go home.
But it's good. You've never been interviewed before, so I think people will find a lot of value from this.
How have we done? I'm really interested to hear this. Like, how have we done in comparison to like other people?
No, he's done like that was.
You don't have to say we've done well. Like,
very, very good, because no one, like, people has seen your podcast for a long time now, what, 2.5 years, 3 years, and they've seen your personality and they've seen you grow. Like, your audience will grow with you. So whenever I'm asking you, have you seen a change? You probably say no, but I guarantee people listening and watching this probably went, flip, I remember watching that one way back, episode 12, whenever Ross said this, but now I know he wouldn't say that. And like, you know, they grow with you in your life, which is really cool, because you're getting married now, you're engaged. Feels like they're going to be on that journey with you. So for people to get an insight on how you're actually feeling, what you do, and how your friendship works, how things outside go, how your low moments affect you, as well as your high moments, I think people will be very thankful for this.
You just celebrated a 10-year anniversary.
There you go, congrats, mate.
Why'd you pull that face?
Oh no.
So we'll hit you with these. Just take turns answer when one of you can answer, or all three, whatever you want there. First one, dream podcast guest. Who would you absolutely love to have on an interview? You just love your guest interviews, so who would you love to do?
I think we've asked ourselves this question so many times. It's so hard.
It probably changes from time to time, I would imagine, but
Mine hasn't changed.
Who's yours?
My Marcus Mumford.
Of course it is. Fuck me.
Love Mumford and Sons. I love that man.
Really?
I met him in Dublin, and I just really wish I would have asked
We've
the
heard this
questions.
story like 30 times.
No, Marcus Mumford would be mine, hands
Yeah.
down. I love him. I like, even like from a music point of view, but also like in our podcast that we did with you, like we were talking about like God and stuff. Like his perspective on all that is very interesting.
wow.
And then also, like, even now more than ever, like, he just put out that solo album that talks about like his childhood and brought up, and like some of the stuff, and like trudged all that stuff up. I think it'd be so interesting, like it'd be from just getting to like speak to someone,
Just to poke his brain and see what he's
not
doing.
just poke his brain. I just want to be his mate. Like, I just want to be his mate.
You want to move in.
Imagine
Move in with
that,
him.
imagine that flex, like at my wedding, like just be like, oh, here lads, like here's my mate Marcus to play. I'd just be like,
So you lose your best man spot, mate.
yeah, you would 100%, and I don't think you'd even be annoyed about it. I think Thomas.
That'll
would
be a
like,
flex.
I would definitely. I would drive up to Belfast and be like, "There's been a bit of a change in the situation," and Thomas would be like, "Who?" And I'd be like, "Marcus Mumford," and Thomas would be like, "That's fine."
Well done.
Respect, man. Yeah.
Who do you want on, Thomas?
I don't know. Like that's
Marcus Rashford.
Rashford would be sick. I think like you could say people that you'd love to meet. Like I love Sam Fender and people like that. Like I think he's one that'd be class. But it's like I'd love to have someone on who hasn't really been on a podcast and like famous, but like I'd love like someone like Niall Horn or something like, that you'd love to just like get into that, but like proper get into like what was like
I'm a One Direction fan, to be fair, so I wouldn't mind.
Like what was that like?
Wouldn't mind that episode.
Growing up and stuff.
I'm a big fan of One Direction, so it'd be great.
That face
I'd be all for
says
it.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I love them. Say we night out in Benedict's, One Direction comes on, mate. Oh my god, you're fucking lit, like.
Clear the dance floor.
Justin Bieber would be a sick one as well. Like.
JB would be cool. Oh, he would never do it. He would do it if you paid him, probably, but that'd be it. If you had to, oh yeah, you haven't said.
I think it's similar to Tommy. Like, there's so many people you like to meet, like Ronaldo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There, like, but interview-wise, like
Speed.
Speed.
Yeah,
Speed.
we were talking about this the last time.
yeah,
I love Speed.
Like, I hear Ronaldo.
he'd be a live wire. Like, you couldn't handle him. Like.
Just say Messi's better than Ronaldo. Just say that to him all the
Start
time.
barking at you, and we'd be like, "Oh, what is going on?"
I think a good one would be like something like a football manager or something. Like, you know, someone who's seen behind, like, in change rooms and stuff, and what goes on behind the scenes. You know, not just like you're interviewing the likes of Ronaldo. Everyone knows what he does every day. Like.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what he does. It's always in the paper. Like say like Sir Alex Ferguson or something. Like.
Yeah.
Like behind the scenes, what's like in the dressing room, like in Champions
A
League
good one you
finals
might
and things
enjoy
like that.
actually. Roy Hodgson was on the overlap that was just out there the other day and it was quite insightful.
was it?
Roy Hodgson isn't the most charismatic character, don't get me wrong, but obviously the knowledge he has at that age, been around the block, managing England, it's good. It was a good interview to be fair. I really enjoyed
That's
it.
it too. You want someone who's been around the block, like
Yeah,
who knows their stuff, like.
I think
absolutely.
we said Roy Keane at a time, and then I
Roy
seen his
Keane,
interview.
obviously.
I seen the interview
Wait, on the
Roy Keane
overlap?
had with Roy Keane had an interview
Tommy
with
Tiernan?
Tommy
Tommy
Tiernan.
Tiernan, yeah.
And have you seen the clips from that?
No.
He's like, and I think it was like Tommy Tiernan was like, oh, and you know you've got kids of your own now, and they're starting to date. Like, what do you think of that? And he's like, yeah.
It was so
And Tommy
like,
Tiernan,
trying to
like,
get
it was
blood out of
so
his stone.
dry.
It
Like,
was so
and Tommy Tiernan was like, you don't really say much. Like, you're not like I'm so, like Tommy Tiernan actually was like like. And Roy Keane was like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, do you want me to do a backflip or something? And I was like, no, he's definitely not coming on our podcast.
The lady sitting there, red face, going, "Fuck, what have I done?" What would you say one skill you need to be successful?
consistency. It's not a skill. I think so.
You need to be able to self-motivate, like be able to get yourself out in the bed in the morning. Like it's fine. Like I find like it's all right if you're 9 to 5. Like I'm not saying you can't be successful at a 9 to 5, but like say you want to like create your own like business or something like that. There, I think like being able to self-motivate, like get yourself down to the gym, get a good mentality and stuff like that. There, but it's all right. Like if you have a job at night, you're getting up at 9 o'clock and you're going to get in trouble in your head. And that wakes you up in the morning, but like being able to actually like say get yourself out of bed at 9 o'clock and force yourself to go and do
To
something.
do that for yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like get in trouble with yourself for
Yeah.
not being up and being what you want to do at 9.
Yeah, definitely.
Favorite thing to do for escapism?
Golfing these days.
Golfing these days, big time.
Nowadays, like, golfing.
Golfing.
Yeah, we haven't got Shea out yet, but we will.
Yeah.
I would say golfing has really I've always been into doing something like whether it be like cycling or something, but now recently Tommy got me into golfing, and I will say it is the most like there was like I clocked out at work like I stopped work on Friday, and there was nothing I would have rather done more than just go golfing.
Wow.
It's like I'd love to be out in a course just on my own.
Sick.
I don't know. I just lock
Is that at
yourself
night
in your
involved?
room. Like, what is the next?
I don't know. It must be people on the way to the monkey.
Oh, they're cheering for us. Like I like just lock myself in a room and like just sitting up and just start
Just baiting one out.
getting on the big screen, like just putting on the good stuff. Like, whipping out the DVD collection. No, but just like putting on like some YouTube video and just relaxing, like getting away from everyone. Like
Yeah.
simple.
You are a
Simple.
recluse. Like you love
I love
being on your own.
I love my own company, like yeah.
No, that's good. That's a skill. Fair, that's a skill. Best place for a night out in Belfast? Where would you go?
Halffield. Joking, I'm joking.
I don't know, like.
We always used to love Ollie's. It was the spot for
I
us.
think that's a
but
controversial one, like.
I don't like going there anymore. Don't like it as much anymore.
Ollies.
That was back
Yeah.
when we were students.
Whenever
like,
we were
and,
students,
like,
like,
drink
it was
was
a good
like
spot to go.
cheap as fuck. But
It was like 250 drinks, but
where
now,
would we go the most there, like?
We
Just go to the National.
We went to the
National's a good
National a couple of times, but like the night that we were at it, where it took us 25 minutes to get a drink, we were
fuck
definitely
that,
like, nah, man.
Oh, I can't see the nights it's busy, man. It is.
Getting
flipping
to the
off.
bar, like after that, we were like, it's just not worth it, like.
we're real old men. We're just happy with if we get our own seat and we're able to get to the bar handy, like
Yeah.
just not a chocker club or anything like that.
We're happy just going to the pub, like we love like just pubs, like go.
Lavery's
having
is
pints,
good.
having
Like I
crack,
like Lavery's, going Lavery's and just playing pool.
You pubs
and
over clubs then? Yeah. You wouldn't.
pubs over clubs
easy,
any day.
Easy,
We went into a place in Manchester, man, and oh my days. Wait, we went to Manchester a couple of months back, and we ended up at this Hulu bar, and we could not hear each other for anything. Like it's proper like like people up giving their stacks, and we were like, get out, let's go.
Yeah.
And like the last time we went over, we ended up finding this really like ragtag pub. It was in front of a police station. And so all the police were around, and we were like, boys, this looks dodge. But we went in, there was a pool table, and then there was darts, and we sat for like 4 hours playing darts.
It was sick.
It's class.
What do you think? Like, are you pubs or clubs?
I'm a club kind of guy.
Are you
Are you?
actually?
I'm a club kind of guy.
Why, like?
You remind me of someone who'd have smooth moves.
No, I like a wee bit of dancing, and I just love see Chris Brown when you're like drinking.
Can you dance like?
No, I'm not amazing. Nah.
Throwing chips.
No, I like just get up enjoying it. But yeah, see when you're drinking and you're getting tipsy, drunk, and Chris Brown's on and Drake's on me, I just like that's good vibes. Like I'm a club kind of boy.
Do you go to like dance and like see we go to a pub to like talk, like we love getting in nitty-gritty conversations.
I sort of roll up with the club, get a drink in hand. You are mostly sit. It depends what kind of night out it is, I guess. But most of the time you go bounce straight to the dance floor with the lads, phone on airplane mode. You are mostly on the dance floor and just. You do chat, I guess you do chat a wee bit in it, but as you say, it can be depends what club you're in. It's fucking hard to reach on.
Where's your favourite place in Belfast to go out then?
I do quite like National, but it's not really clubby. But it can be a wee bit at the front. See the very front bit, where you can sit in.
Yeah.
Like you can get I remember walking in one day, 50 Cent straight on. I was like, "Fucking let's go, get me a drink to fuck now," and I was ready to roll. Like, but
see, I love whenever that type of stuff comes on. Like, but like at the end of the night, whenever you're pissed, and it's like songs like, "Oh, come on, you're up there," like I'd be up there.
Well,
like,
you have to be in a bad way from the dance floor, like.
I have this as like built into me now, where like whenever I was younger, like around like 13, 14, we would have went to me and a mate, and like he would have been really into like the church scene, would have went to them socials that you know I'm talking about, like socials and like halls and all in Ballymena, and like even like we went to like flipping Portadown and all for one and all, but like they done all like the line dancing and all. And like when you were 13, 14, you just want out of the house, so I was like, get me over there, like let's go get the Vitazied, the flipping strawberry laces, let's go meet the women. Never spoke to any women. Even bought check shirts and all. I was part of that scene for a while. Jeez. But like you see now, if I'm at a wedding and someone puts on like 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, I think it's the Steps or something. Do that? I know that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like something just. It's like you ever seen Midnight? Like something just comes over my body and I'm away. Like, I'm up on the dance floor.
Straight.
I'm like, wait, you see these moves.
I love the cheesy tunes, like as I was saying, One Direction. But see, even like Backstreet. I went and seen Backstreet Boys with my sister and absolutely fucking blitzed in the hotel room. Got there, fucking fell up the stairs, and everything. Like, I love the cheesy tunes too, like as well.
There's
not just the fucking mad stuff.
Maybe not in like a club or anything, but there's nights we've been back to the house and High School Musical has come on, and like even Tommy's been typing out a few notes. Like
whenever we bought the house, like whenever me and Lucinda bought the house, we had yous over, and like that was New Year's Eve. And we just sat the whole night listening to like High School Musical. The Lumineers was on. We were proper like Lucinda has a video of us all sitting on the sofa just belting out the tunes. Like. I was at a wedding recently and Rock the Boat came on. Nobody knew what was happening. Everybody was like, "What do we do?"
You
and
all
I was like,
lying or
lines,
sit in a line
let's
and
go.
fucking. I hate that song. To be fair, it does cringe me out. I've been at weddings and so, and everyone's ruining them like these are all.
Yeah, but that's different. I think like when you have a group of ones that actually want the crack, but then you've obviously like the creepy uncles and stuff. You're like, let's get down on this floor and get close. Like,
so you love. I want to sit behind you. All right, fucking Uncle Joe there. Last question, actually. What do you want your podcast to be known for?
The Craic. The stories. Our Craic, like. As it's called,
name, like,
I think that, like, just for our stories and the stupidity we come out with at times. Like.
That's a really good answer. I think like that's why we named it, because so many people ask us and get it mistaken for What's the Craic. That gets under my skin, because we were going to call it What's the Craic, but then the reason why we called it Here's the Craic was we were like, we want to be like, here's the crack.
Here it is.
Here it is.
It's arrived.
Whether that be the crack is in the banter or the crack is in the news, like people be like, well, what's the crack with you today? We want it to be like the place where people go to. Like I think like moving forward, we don't just want it to be like us three. Like we'd love for people to like hop on board and stuff and like do their own thing and maybe use it as a platform to like, this is where the crack is. Like, be awesome.
That's like the media source.
Yeah.
Where people get their shit from.
I'd love to like collaborate more. Like I think like you look at like what the Sidemen and like all those guys over there do, and like they all are in each other's videos and stuff. And I think like now there's not many like content creators up and coming over here. Like it'd be cool to start doing more stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
it's an exciting time. Like here, there's a lot of people coming up. So collaborations like be an interesting few years what people will be doing like.
Yeah, it was good to collaborate with you. This is one as well, I would consider it, and probably should have done it earlier. Like as we said on yours, we same barber, same sort of area. It's like hard to believe that we didn't, but then again, that's what life gets.
I think it's a weird one because like I don't think we ever look at, like, people have actually asked us, like, see such and such a startup podcast, what do you think of that? And we're like, go on ahead, like, do it.
I do want you to say, oh, fuck him.
It's like some people think it's like a weird competitive game, and it's not. Like it's really not.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking of starting a podcast, you're like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to like trample on whoever's, like, no one in their right, no one who's decent is going to think that. Like
no.
I think the reason why probably we didn't like sort of touch base before is just like you're so busy doing your own thing and sorting yourself out. I say we've came through a period where we've really like learned and like sort of got our shit together, like, and now it's time to, like, now we're like, right, let's reach out to people, let's do all that. So yeah, it was really weird realizing that you worked in Starbucks as well.
I know that was weird. We had a wee moment, we're like, what? Yeah, that was my place, man. I fucking love that place. Like,
have you then like met before, like on the...
I think I might have served. Did you say I might have served you maybe?
Because
you sort of recognise me from where?
I was in Starbucks a couple of times because I worked in town, so I've been in Starbucks a couple of times. But then I think there was specifically a day I knew a fella who worked in Starbucks with you, and I remember talking to him one day, Chris Pope.
Yes. That'd have been towards the end of my Starbucks career.
I would know Chris vaguely well because back in the day I'd been really into photography. Like I was really into photography, and then Chris got into it.
Yes.
And then that's how me and him kind of like we were just like sort of messing back and forth. And there was one day I was in Starbucks and I called in because I was like, I'm gonna like just say hello to him because he's been messaging me about stuff. He put me in a YouTube video that he did. He was like, he went into a cafe and he was like, this guy's prints are up on the wall, Ross. Shout out to him. So I went into him and I was like, what's the crack? And then I think you were, that's the recollection I have. I think you were standing there and like you kind of like got involved in the conversation very naturally. Wow. And then it was just the other day it clicked whenever you said on our podcast that you just like talking to people and like you just try and start up a conversation. I was like, that's the guy who just, it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But I don't think I've ever seen you around town at all.
No, and we haven't even been in the barbers at the same time.
And then we bumped into each other at the cinema the other day.
I know.
That's like the first time I've ever seen you.
We plan to meet, and then we bump into each other.
Yeah, but we'll see each other all the time.
I know, that's the way it'll be. You get what you're looking for, innit?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Lads, thank you so much for coming down. Really appreciate it.
First ever podcast.
Yeah, first ever one. I'm sure you'll have a few more scheduled after this. I think you have one more scheduled. I think I talked to someone, you might be on another one, no?
Perhaps.
We've been back and forth with a few people, but nothing like confirmed yet. But like it'd be cool to come on to other people's podcasts. Like,
definitely.
100%.
So if you haven't heard from them, you probably have heard of them. But if you haven't, check them out at Here's the Craic on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, everything. Everything will be linked in the bio below. But guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
All the best.
Boom.